The silent observer's commander, Sarah Chen, pressed her gloved hand against the viewport of her solo lunar craft, watching the moon's far side grow larger with each passing minute. The coordinates burned in her memory like a brand: 178.3 degrees west, 12.7 south. They had come to her 3 months ago through a transmission that bypassed every security protocol on Earth, appearing simultaneously on her personal computer, her phone, and somehow even on her bathroom mirror as she brushed her teeth one Tuesday morning. The message was simple: Commander Chen, your species approaches a threshold. Come alone to these coordinates. The Watchers are ready to meet you. At 45 years old, Sarah had logged more deep space hours than any active astronaut. She had walked on Mars, repaired satellites in the asteroid belt, and survived a reactor explosion on Europa Station that killed 3 of her closest friends. But nothing had prepared her for the absolute silence that greeted her as she approached the designated landing site. Her craft's sensors showed nothing. No structures, no energy readings, no electromagnetic signatures. Just another patch of lunar regolith that looked identical to 10,000 other craters she had seen. Sarah began her landing sequence, her hands steady despite the flutter of uncertainty in her chest. "Houston, this is Lunar Explorer 7, she radioed, knowing the communication delay would make conversation impossible. Beginning final approach to survey coordinates, all systems nominal. The landing was textbook perfect. Sarah went through her post-flight checklist with the methodical precision of someone who had done this hundreds of times before. Seal the cabin, check life support, power down non-essential systems. Her EVA suit was a custom design, modified over years of personal experience to maximize both protection and mobility. As she prepared to step outside, she caught her reflection in the helmet's inner surface. Gray streaks ran through her black hair, and lines mapped the corners of her eyes. She looked like what she was, a woman who had spent 2 decades staring into the vast emptiness between worlds. Her husband, Michael, had always said those lines were proof of her courage, evidence of someone who dared to look directly at the infinite. Michael had been gone for 3 years now, lost in a Martian dust storm that came out of nowhere. Sarah pushed the memory away and focused on the present. The lunar surface crunched under her boots with familiar sounds transmitted through her suit's contact microphones. Her helmet lights carved a cone of visibility in the perpetual darkness of the moon's far side, illuminating nothing but rocks and dust. Sarah began walking toward the exact coordinates, her suit's navigation system guiding her path. 20 meters from the target location, her sensors exploded with readings. The structure that materialized before her defied every law of physics she knew. It wasn't that it had been hidden or camouflaged. It simply hadn't existed until she was close enough to see it. The building, if it could be called that, appeared to be made of crystalline formations that bent light around themselves in impossible ways. Geometric patterns shifted and flowed across its surface like living mathematics. "Jesus Christ," Sarah whispered, forgetting her radio protocol entirely. The structure stood approximately 50 meters tall and twice as wide, its surfaces reflecting not Sarah's helmet lights, but something else entirely. Colors that had no names danced across its walls, and within those colors she could see movement. Shapes that might have been figures, or might have been thoughts given form, flowed through the crystal like fish swimming in an ocean of pure energy. Sarah approached the structure's entrance, a doorway that seemed to adjust itself to her height as she drew near. Her suit's radiation detectors remained silent, but every other sensor screamed warnings about energy fields and spatial distortions that shouldn't exist. She stepped through the doorway and found herself in a vast chamber that was definitely larger inside than the structure appeared from outside. The floor beneath her boots felt solid, but she could see stars below the transparent surface. Not the stars visible from the moon, but alien constellations that wheeled and turned in patterns that made her eyes water. "Welcome, Sarah Chen of Earth." The voice came from everywhere and nowhere, speaking perfect English with an accent she couldn't place. It sounded like wind through crystal caves, like the memory of songs she had never heard. 3 figures materialized before her, tall and slender beings that seemed to be made of the same shifting light as the building's walls. They wore no clothing, that Sarah could identify, but their forms suggested dignity and ancient wisdom. Their faces, if they were faces, held expressions of patient curiosity. "You are the Watchers," Sarah said. It wasn't a question. "We are the ethereal," replied the central figure. "We have observed your species for 50,000 of your years, since you first learned to shape stone tools and look up at the night sky with wonder. We have been waiting for one like you to find us." Sarah's mind raced with 1,000 questions, but she forced herself to stay calm. First contact protocols, developed by teams of scientists and diplomats, ran through her memory. Be respectful, gather information, don't make assumptions about intent or capability. "Why me?" she asked. "Because you have lost much and still choose to explore. Because you understand both the joy of discovery and the pain of sacrifice. Because your species needs an advocate who can speak for both their potential and their limitations." The ethereal gestured with movements that reminded Sarah of conducting music, and the chamber around them changed. Suddenly they stood on what appeared to be a platform overlooking Earth from an impossible distance. Sarah could see the blue marble of her home world, but also something more. Lines of energy connected every living thing on the planet's surface, a web of consciousness that pulsed with the rhythm of life itself. "Your species stands at a threshold," the ethereal continued. "In your terms, you have reached a critical point in your development. Other civilizations have faced this same test. Some passed and joined the greater community of sapient beings. Others—" The view shifted to show dead worlds, planets scoured clean by weapons that left no traces beyond silence. "What kind of test?" Sarah asked, though part of her already knew the answer would change everything. Unity or destruction, growth or stagnation. In 30 of your days, representatives from the Galactic Collective will arrive at your world. They will present humanity with a challenge that cannot be solved by any single nation, any single group, any single way of thinking. Your species must demonstrate that despite your differences, you can work together for the common good of all. Life. Sarah looked down at Earth, so beautiful and fragile from this impossible vantage point. She thought of the wars still raging, the political divisions that seemed to grow deeper each year, the environmental crises that nations refuse to address cooperatively. What if we fail? Then your species will be contained to your solar system until you destroy yourselves or evolve beyond your current limitations. This has been the fate of many promising civilizations. And if we succeed? The view changed again, showing her fleets of ships moving between stars, human explorers walking on worlds she couldn't imagine, technologies that could heal planets and extend life across the galaxy. Then you become part of something greater than any single world. But Sarah Chen, there is something else you must understand. The test is not just about cooperation. It is about maintaining what makes humanity unique while embracing change. Many species that join the collective lose themselves in the process, becoming mere echoes of greater civilizations. Humanity must find a way to grow without losing its essential nature. The second ethereal stepped forward. "This is why we chose you. You understand loss but have not let it make you bitter. You seek knowledge but have not lost your compassion. You will be the bridge between what humanity is and what it can become." Sarah felt a strange tingling in her mind, as if invisible fingers were reaching into her thoughts. "We are sharing with you the knowledge you will need. Some of it your scientists will understand immediately. Other concepts will challenge the foundations of your current understanding. But all of it will be necessary." The download began, and Sarah's consciousness exploded with information. She saw technologies that manipulated matter at the quantum level, energy sources that drew power from the rotation of galaxies, communication methods that transcended space and time. But more importantly, she saw the histories of other species, their struggles and triumphs, their failures and achievements. She witnessed the Ethan, a warrior race that unified their planet through conquest but failed the test because they couldn't conceive of cooperation with equals. She saw the Verdani, plant-like beings who achieved perfect harmony with their environment but failed because they refused to consider the needs of other life forms. She watched the Kinar, masters of technology who succeeded partially but lost their creativity in the process, becoming efficient but sterile contributors to galactic civilization. Each story was a warning and a lesson. Success required balance. Strength without brutality, unity without conformity, progress without losing the essential spark that made a species worth preserving. When the download ended, Sarah found herself on her knees in the crystal chamber, her head spinning with new knowledge and possibilities. The ethereal waited patiently for her to recover. The test begins in 30 days. The first ethereal repeated. You must return to your world and prepare your species. But remember, Sarah Chen, the collective's representatives will not simply give you a problem to solve. They will challenge the very foundation of human civilization. Only by embracing both your individual strengths and your collective potential can humanity hope to succeed. Sarah stood slowly, her mind still processing the vast amount of information she had received. What exactly will they ask us to do? That knowledge is sealed until the moment arrives. But know this, the solution will require every type of human expertise, scientists and artists, soldiers and philosophers, children and elders. No single group has all the answers. The chamber began to fade around them, and Sarah realized she was being returned to the lunar surface. Wait, she called out. How do I convince them? How do I make 8 billion people believe this is real? The third ethereal, who had remained, silent until now, spoke with a voice like distant thunder. You do not convince them with words alone. You show them what they can become. The knowledge we have given you includes technologies that will prove our existence. But more importantly, it includes the wisdom to help your species see past their differences to their common destiny. Sarah found herself standing next to her lunar craft, the mysterious structure nowhere to be seen. Her suit's chronometer showed that 6 hours had passed, though it felt like minutes. She looked up at the starfield above, knowing that somewhere among those points of light, civilizations watched and waited to see what humanity would choose. As she prepared to return to Earth, Sarah realized that her life of exploration had been preparing her for this moment. Every mission, every discovery, every loss had shaped her into someone who could serve as humanity's advocate before powers beyond imagination. The real adventure was just beginning. In 30 days, the most important test in human history would commence. Sarah Chen, veteran of the void, would need to become something more. The person who helped humanity find its place among the stars. The return journey to Earth passed in a blur of calculations and preparations. Sarah's mind buzzed with the alien knowledge, sorting through technologies and concepts that would revolutionize human science. But beneath the excitement lay a cold fear. 30 days to unite a divided world. 30 days to convince humanity that their future depended on cooperation rather than competition. As Earth grew larger in her viewport, Sarah began planning the most important presentation of her life. The fate of humanity rested in her hands, and failure was not an option. Humanity's choice. The United Nations Security Council chamber had never hosted a meeting quite like this one. Representatives from every nation on Earth sat in unprecedented unity, as Commander Sarah Chen stood at the podium, her hands steady despite the weight of what she was about to reveal. Behind her, holographic displays showed the impossible technologies she had brought back from her encounter with the ethereal. 27 days ago, I made contact with an advanced civilization that has been watching humanity for 50,000 years. Sarah began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. In 3 days, representatives from something called the Galactic Collective will arrive to test whether our species is ready to join the greater community of sapient beings. The Chinese ambassador raised his hand. Commander Chen, you ask us to believe in alien contact based solely on your testimony and these devices. How do we know this isn't an elaborate deception? Sarah nodded toward Dr. Martinez, the lead physicist from CERN who had been studying the alien technologies for the past week. Doctor, would you share your findings? Dr. Martinez stood, his face pale with excitement and fear. Ladies and gentlemen, the energy readings from Commander Chen's devices violate our understanding of physics. They generate power through methods. We cannot explain process information faster than our most advanced quantum computers and manipulate matter in ways that should be impossible. Either Commander Chen has discovered technologies centuries ahead of anything we possess, or her story is exactly what she claims it to be. The Russian president leaned forward. Even if we accept this is real, you're asking us to abandon decades of foreign policy and centuries of national sovereignty. How do we know this isn't a trap? How do we know these aliens don't simply want us to weaken ourselves through cooperation? Sarah had expected this question, because they've been watching us for 50 millennia, and if they wanted to destroy us, they could have done so at any point. The ethereal showed me the histories of other species that faced this test. Those that failed were simply contained to their home systems, left alone until they either evolved or destroyed themselves. The galaxy is vast enough that one quarantined system doesn't matter to advanced civilizations. The Indian Prime Minister spoke up. What exactly is this test? What are we being asked to do? I don't know the specific details. The knowledge was sealed from me. But I know it will require every type of human expertise working together. Scientists and artists, military strategists and philosophers, people from every culture and background on Earth. The Brazilian delegate looked skeptical. Commander, you've been gone from Earth for only 3 weeks since your return. How could we possibly organize the kind of global cooperation you're describing in just 3 days? Before Sarah could answer, alerts began sounding throughout the chamber. Every phone, tablet, and communication device activated simultaneously, displaying the same message in dozens of languages. Citizens of Earth, we are the collective. The test begins now. Outside, the sky erupted with light. Massive vessels, each the size of a small city, materialized above every major population center on Earth. They hung motionless in the atmosphere, their surfaces reflecting sunlight in patterns that seemed almost hypnotic. Sarah looked around the chamber at the faces of world leaders, seeing her own mixture of fear and awe reflected in their expressions. It seems the collective didn't wait for our permission to arrive. Main display in the chamber flickered to life, showing the face of something that was clearly not human. The being had features that suggested both reptilian and avian ancestry, with large, intelligent eyes that seemed to look directly at each person in the room. Greetings, humans of Earth. I am Coordinator HFY of the Galactic Collective. Your species has reached the threshold of technological and social development, where you must choose your path forward. You may attempt to join the greater community of sapient beings, or you may remain isolated until you achieve true unity, or destroy yourselves. The creature's image was replaced by a 3-dimensional hologram showing Earth surrounded by an energy field. Your planet is now contained within a temporal barrier. No communications may enter or leave, and no physical travel is possible beyond your atmosphere. This barrier will remain in place until you complete the test or fail in the attempt. Sarah felt her heart racing. This was it. Everything the ethereal had warned her about was happening exactly as predicted. The test is as follows. Coordinator HFY continued. Your species must demonstrate the ability to work together to solve a problem that affects all life on your planet. We have introduced a quantum virus into your planet's magnetic field. This virus will gradually destabilize your magnetosphere, exposing your world to deadly solar radiation within 72 hours. Gasps echoed through the chamber. The Secretary General of the United Nations stood quickly. You're going to kill billions of people as a test? If you fail, yes. However, the solution exists within your current technological capabilities, enhanced by knowledge your Commander Chen received from the Watchers. But the solution requires perfect coordination between all your nations, all your scientific institutions, and all your military forces. Any attempt by individual nations to solve the problem alone will fail and accelerate the timeline to 36 hours. The display changed again, showing complex equations and technical diagrams that made Sarah's head spin. Even with the knowledge the ethereal had downloaded into her mind, she could barely follow the concepts being presented. The quantum virus can only be neutralized by generating a synchronized energy pulse from 42 specific locations around your planet. Each location requires different technological approaches. Some require your most advanced particle accelerators. Others need precise electromagnetic field manipulation, and still others must generate harmonic frequencies that resonate with your planet's core. Sarah realized with growing horror that the test was even more complex than she had imagined. You're asking us to coordinate 42 different scientific and military operations across every continent and ocean simultaneously. That kind of cooperation has never been achieved in human history. Which is precisely why it is the test, Coordinator Vexhai replied. Species that cannot transcend their tribal instincts, their territorial disputes, and their resource competition pose a danger to themselves and others when given access to galactic-level technologies. You have 72 hours to prove that humanity can prioritize survival over sovereignty. The connection ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Sarah looked around at the faces of world leaders who had spent their careers viewing each other as rivals or threats, now forced to work together or watch their entire species die. The American president was the first to speak. Commander Chen, you understand these technologies better than anyone. What do we need to do? Sarah moved to the main display, her mind racing through the alien knowledge the ethereal had given her. We need to divide the 42 locations, based on each nation's technological capabilities and geographic positions. The United States and China have the most advanced particle accelerators. Russia and the European Union have the best electromagnetic manipulation facilities. Japan and India have precision manufacturing capabilities we'll need for some of the harmonic generators, the French president interrupted. But our particle accelerators aren't designed to work together. They operate on completely different principles, which is why we need to modify them using these specifications, Sarah replied, highlighting sections of the alien data. The technologies I brought back include methods for synchronizing quantum fields across vast distances, but each modification requires resources and expertise from multiple nations. Over the next 6 hours, the most complex international cooperation project in human history began to take shape. Military transport aircraft crossed borders without paperwork or delays, carrying crucial components between allied and enemy nations alike. Scientists who had spent their careers competing for grants and recognition shared their research freely, knowing that failure meant extinction for everyone. Sarah found herself at the center of it all, translating alien concepts into terms human engineers could understand, coordinating between teams of scientists who spoke different languages and came from cultures that had been enemies for centuries. The first major crisis came 18 hours into the project. The facility in Kazakhstan that was supposed to generate one of the harmonic frequencies suffered a critical malfunction. Without that specific frequency, the entire synchronized pulse would fail. We have a backup location in Australia, reported the Kazakhstani team leader over the video conference. But the harmonic generators there are designed for mineral surveys, not quantum field manipulation. Sarah studied the specifications, her alien-enhanced understanding showing her possibilities that human science hadn't yet imagined. What if we link the Australian generators to the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland? The CERN facility can provide the quantum field coherence that the Australian equipment lacks. Dr. Martinez, still at CERN, looked incredulous. Sarah, that would require a real-time quantum entanglement between facilities on opposite sides of the planet. We don't have that technology. We do now, Sarah replied, highlighting another section of the ethereal data. These specifications show how to create stable quantum tunnels using modified particle accelerator beams. It's never been tried, but the math works. The next 36 hours blurred together in a frenzy of international cooperation, unlike anything in human history. Cultural barriers fell as Korean engineers worked alongside Iranian physicists, as Brazilian military officers coordinated with Pakistani computer specialists, as Aboriginal elders shared traditional knowledge about harmonic frequencies with Scandinavian quantum theorists. Sarah barely slept, moving from crisis to crisis as the 42 facilities around the world prepared for the synchronized pulse. She watched in amazement as humanity demonstrated capabilities she had never imagined. When the facility in Antarctica lost power during a blizzard, volunteers from 12 different nations worked together to maintain the generators by hand. When a crucial component failed in the Sahara Desert facility, Bedouin guides led supply teams across impossible terrain to deliver replacement parts. With 6 hours remaining until the magnetic field collapsed, all 42 facilities reported ready status. Sarah stood in the main coordination center surrounded by representatives from every nation on Earth, watching displays that showed real-time status from around the globe. All stations, this is Global Command, Sarah announced. Still amazed that such a thing existed. Synchronization begins in 60 seconds. Remember, this pulse must be perfect. Even a microsecond of variation will cause the entire system to fail. The countdown began. Sarah watched the displays showing energy buildups at facilities across 6 continents and 2 oceans. In Switzerland, the Large Hadron Collider generated quantum fields of unprecedented precision. In Japan, massive electromagnetic coils prepared to pulse in perfect harmony with their counterparts in Chile and South Africa. In the depths of the ocean, submarine-mounted harmonic generators synchronized with mountaintop observatories and desert research stations. 10 seconds, Sarah announced. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, execute. Around the planet, 42 facilities unleash their energy bursts simultaneously. Sarah watched the displays as quantum fields merged. Electromagnetic pulses aligned and harmonic frequencies resonated through the Earth's core. For a moment, the entire planet seemed to ring like a bell, producing a sound that could be felt, rather than heard. The main display showed Earth's magnetic field in real time. The chaotic disruptions caused by the quantum virus began to stabilize, then strengthen, then return to normal patterns. They had done it. Humanity had passed the test. The chamber erupted in cheers and applause, but Sarah found herself thinking of all the small miracles that had made success possible. Nations that had refused to share technology for decades had opened their most classified research. Scientists who competed fiercely for recognition had worked as anonymous team members. Military forces had crossed borders not to invade but to help. Coordinator Vexhi's image appeared on the main display again, but this time, the alien's expression seemed almost pleased. Congratulations, humans of Earth. Your species has demonstrated the ability to transcend individual interests for collective survival. This is the fundamental requirement for membership in the Galactic Collective. Sarah stepped forward. Does this mean we're accepted? Do we join your civilization now? You have earned the right to begin the process, Vexhi replied. But joining the collective is not a single moment. It is a journey of growth and learning that will take generations. What you have proven today is that humanity possesses the potential for that growth. The alien gestured, and new displays appeared showing star maps, technological specifications, and images of worlds beyond imagination. These are your first gifts: faster than light communication, clean energy generation, and the coordinates of 12 worlds suitable for human colonization. Use them wisely and maintain the spirit of cooperation you have shown here. There is one final gift, Vexhi continued, and one final warning. The gift is time. The quantum virus was designed to strengthen your magnetic field permanently, not damage it. Your world is now more protected from cosmic radiation than ever before. The warning is this: the cooperation you have shown must become permanent. The galaxy is vast and contains dangers as well as wonders. Only by maintaining your unity can humanity hope to thrive among the stars. As the alien ships began to fade from Earth's skies, Sarah looked around at the faces of the world leaders who had become, for the first time in history, truly global partners. The test was over, but the real work was just beginning. In the days that followed, the impossible became routine. The Global Cooperation Council, established in the crisis, became a permanent institution. The technologies gifted by the collective began to solve problems that had seemed unsolvable: climate change, energy shortages, even the basic challenge of feeding Earth's growing population. Sarah found herself appointed as Earth's first galactic ambassador, a role that required her to continue learning about the vast community of beings that humanity had joined. She established her office in the lunar facility where her journey had begun, the crystalline structure of the ethereal serving as a constant reminder of how far humanity had come. 6 months after first contact, Sarah stood in the same spot where she had met the Watchers, but now she was no longer alone. Scientists and diplomats from around the world worked in the facility, learning to communicate with the dozens of species that made up the Galactic Collective. "You have done well, Sarah." "Chen," a familiar voice said behind her. She turned to see one of the ethereal materializing in the chamber. "We've only just begun," Sarah replied. "Every day brings new challenges, new opportunities to fail, and new opportunities to succeed," the ethereal responded. "Your species has shown something rare in our observations. You have grown without losing your essential nature. You remain competitive individuals who can choose to cooperate. You remain curious explorers who can accept guidance. You remain diverse in thought and culture while united in purpose." Sarah looked out at Earth through the facility's transparent walls. Her world looked the same from this distance, but she knew everything had changed. Children were learning about alien civilizations in school. Scientists were unlocking the secrets of faster-than-light travel. Artists were creating works inspired by the beauty of distant worlds. "What's next?" she asked. "Next, you continue to grow. You explore, you learn, you make mistakes, and you learn from them. In time, perhaps, humanity will become one of the species that helps test the next emerging civilization. But that is far in the future. For now, you have work to do." As the ethereal faded from view, Sarah smiled. Humanity had passed its greatest test, but the adventure was far from over. Among the stars, new challenges and new wonders waited, and humanity, united at last, was ready to meet them.